Huge loss. 3 important people of Putin removed. A nightmare on the Russian army. Ukrainian partisans at work, invisible heroes who never leave the streets of Ukraine empty. Ukrainian patriots continue to support their country's army with the war turning in favor of Ukraine. The Ukrainian partisans who fell like a nightmare on the Russian army successfully carried out nearly 30 resistance events so far in Melitopol, the Zaporizhzhia province. Partisans destroyed the railway bridge southwest of the city, thereby cutting off the rail link with the Crimea, where Russian enemy troops most wanted to control. In Luhansk, another most important region for the Russians, the partisans were on the scene again. The freedom fighters who made a big explosion in this region intimidated the Russian enemy troops. The partisans who were successfully carried out all these attacks eliminated 3 of Putin's most important key figures. First execution: collaborator, Vice President of Kherson Province Alexei Kovalov, shot dead in his home. Second execution: Andrei Riziko, the local police chief of collaborationist Zaporizhzhia province, was found hanged. The third execution was abolished by the collaborationist mayor of the Farugia province, Ivan Sushko, when the bombs loaded on his car exploded. Known as Death in Mysteries, Ukrainian partisans silenced many more pro-Russian collaborators. The sudden deaths greatly disturbed the supporters of the Russian enemy. After these events, his supporters of Russia began to constantly control his back, even while walking on the streets of Ukraine. Other successful assassinations of the Mysteries of Death, who terrorized the Russians in Zaporizhzhia province. The Russian collaborative vice president of the State Automobile Inspection, Alexander Necklaces Nikol, is another name who has been silenced. In Zaporizhzhia province, the explosion at the headquarters of the organization We Are With Russia, which is making so-called referendum plans, is again the signature of death ambassadors. After the Ukrainian partisans announced that they would continue to find the names who cooperated with the Russians one by one and cut their sentences, and that they would continue their actions until there was no one left who would dare to cooperate with the Russians, the streets that the death envoys had taken under their control were almost empty. All enemy collaborators are now in the grave. 3 defining explosions occurred in the aerospace area of the town of Melitopol in Zaporizhzhia region, temporarily captured by the Russian enemy troops. Many military bases established by the Russian invaders in this area became unusable. Again, the messengers of death are on the scene. Ukrainian partisans, the shadow army of the Kherson region of the Ukrainian army, also carry out target detection by reporting phone calls or correspondence of Russian enemy units to the army. The angels of that will also receive help from the Ukrainian army from time to time, carry out reconnaissance flights with UAVs in Kherson, and determine the strategic centers of the enemy troops. There's a unit in the Ukrainian partisan group that undertakes the most special tasks and fulfills these missions with 100% success. No one has died from the special units so far. It is known that this unit, which has amazing hiding abilities, is not only in Charleston but also in some strategic settlements of Ukraine. The primary task of the partisans, the secret heroes of Ukraine, was to prevent the so-called referendum that was planned to be held in Kherson. Partisans who have taken many successful steps to prevent this persistence of the Russians in this region. Also inform and warn the local people about the so-called referendum being considered by the Russian enemy troops. Before the Ukrainian partisans showed their influence in the Kherson region, Russian enemy units were oppressing and torturing the local people. They immediately detained anyone on whom they found any material on behalf of Ukraine. Buses and other public transportation vehicles were charged arbitrarily. Citizens were brought down and subjected to violence. Things turned upside down when Ukraine's angels of death invaded this region. Russian enemy troops could no longer create an atmosphere of oppression and violence in this region as they wished. Stop torturing the local population. They started looking for a hole to escape from the shadow army of Ukraine. According to a secret information, a Ukrainian partisan took the soldiers of the Ukrainian heroic army, which was surrounded by enemy troops under the Dnieper, across the river in bows, and managed to take their ammunition from the enemy unit without being noticed. An interesting anecdote. Ukrainian air hoax recently launched 9 airstrikes against Russian enemy units. The heroic pilots of Ukraine do not even let the enemy troops breathe. As a result of the Ukrainian airstrikes, 7 valve-protected bunkers belonging to the enemy unit were destroyed and many Russian air defense systems became unusable. After the Russians set their sights on Donetsk, the Ukrainian Air Force continues to destroy the UAVs that make reconnaissance flights in this region. The dirty purpose of these reconnaissance flights, carried out by the enemy troops, is to lay mines in the places to be determined. Yes, You didn't hear wrong. Another move to be expected from the Russian army and administration. The Russian administration, which targets the civilian population without hesitation, continues its attempts to commit treacherous crimes against humanity in this region without slowing down, thanks to the successful attempts of the heroic. From forces of Ukraine, this nefarious plans was prevented from being realized. President of Ukraine Zelensky underlined the importance of regional powers while stating that such treacherous attempts by Russian enemy forces will be continuous. President Zelensky reiterated that local people should be vigilant against such wild attacks. Ukrainian partisans did not let the Russian enemy forces in the regional resistance, but the Russians do not prevent themselves. And carrying out the dirty attacks, including the civilian population, in every region where they get the opportunity. Over time, the influence of partisan movements managed to prevent these treacherous attacks. Reports of attacks from enemy troops dwindled drastically as the Russian army was in a position to refrain from making a noise across refrain. In the last days of the war, both the enemy Russian troops and the Ukrainian army have targeted Crimea. It is said that the new front will be moved to the Crimea. In the later stages of the war, hot clashes are expected in this region. A Russian military facility was attacked in Crimea the other day. Making a statement as a result of this attack, the legendary leader of Ukraine, Zelensky, made the enemy army weary, uneasy with the words that he attacks will continue until Crimea is liberated. Also in Crimea, the Saki military airport, which Russia used as a base in the Ukraine war, was bombed. The heroic Ukrainian army shattered 9 warplanes belonging to the enemy troops, but the secret air raids it organized in this region. The geopolitical position and military importance of Crimea is much more than other regions. Therefore, a loss in Crimea has a greater meaning than a loss in other regions. The president of Ukraine takes a very sensitive stance on the Crimea issue, stating that the war started with Crimea and should end with the liberation of Crimea. Zelensky made Putin very uneasy. Zelensky, who was considering including the Ukrainian partisans in the rescue of Crimea, which he said was out of the question for negotiations, declared that the attacks would continue until Crimea became Ukraine. Thank you for watching. Please tell me what you think below in the comments section. If you think my video is helpful, please remember to like and share video. And don't forget to follow page now.